As a big id Software fan for about 18 years, it is a good time to be alive, as in the wake of QuakeCon 2024, id Software re-released the original Doom in collaboration with Nightdive Studios. Prior to this, all we had officially was the original game and the Unity re-release, that while it didn't have a good reception at launch, it was improved sometime later on with quality of life features and dehack support. Not to mention add-ons being added from time to time. But there are some features that were missing as we're going to address in a moment, but I want to talk about QuakeCon for a bit. Prior to what we got, a new title was under development which some speculated would have been a new Quake game, which had been something me and my friend group have been wanting for a few years now. Turns out, a new Doom game called Doom: The Dark Ages was announced on the Bethesda showcase a while back, so it was likely that a new Quake game is kind of out of the question for now, and QuakeCon 2024 would have been a stopgap year for anything Quake related. Well, in a way, I was expecting either a Quake 3 Arena remaster from Nightdive Studios, or a major update to one of the existing Quake remasters. But either way, I woke up to a friend of mine sending me a Steam page to what it seems to be titled Doom plus Doom 2, and seeing the trailer had me hyped. So some of you may wonder, what does the new re-release offer compared to the one we had before? Well, in typical Nightdive fashion, it was switched to the Kex engine as opposed to Unity. All of the official Doom games were merged into one package, like the Ultimate Doom, Doom 2, Final Doom, the Master Levels, No Rest for the Living, which was originally for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 ports of Doom 2. And of course there is John Romero's Sigil. But that's not all, as the trio of id Software, Nightdive Studios, and Machine Games collaborated with each other to make another add-on named Legacy of Rust, which features some extra content like 2 new weapons, consisting of an incinerator and the Calamity Blade, which looks something out of Doom Eternal. I plan to make a separate video for this add-on another time, but for now this is just an impressions video. Anyway, there are other features consisting of a remixed soundtrack by Andrew Hulshult, alongside the original soundtrack pre-recorded with Roland SC55, while having the original Sound Blaster OPL music as an option, or maybe Gravis Ultrasound emulation. There is support for 60 frames per second, if not higher than that, but I kinda wished for the option to play this at the original 35 frames per second because honestly I'm a purist. But either way, the re-release adds in multi-threaded rendering, allowing extra performance, although the code was said to have been borrowed from a source port named Roman Raisin. But the big feature that sold me big time is the online multiplayer support, which had been missing in the previous re-release prior. And knowing me, I'm a big fan of multiplayer gaming, but beforehand you only had access to split-screen multiplayer, which I suppose you could potentially make it work online if you made use of remote services like Parsec, which is nice for playing console multiplayer games, but it can be a pain due to latency, which also can depend on your internet connection quality. Nonetheless, I spent about 6 to 7 hours almost non-stop playing Deathmatch with my friend group on its launch day. Though my only complaint is the lack of the ability to play user add-ons in multiplayer, as you're only limited to some of the stock levels and its 26 deathmatch levels it came with. However, a friend of mine decided to reach out to one of the developers about this, and based on what I've heard, it's kind of expected that such a feature may possibly be implemented later down the line. But don't count my word on it, since it's almost like 2 years since we're stuck to playing only 12 multiplayer levels for Rise of the Triad Ludicrous Edition. It's all a waiting game at the end of the day. I would say the multiplayer for this remaster is getting real close to being a convenient and definitive way to play Doom multiplayer the way it was originally intended without resorting to a group of source ports like Xandronum, Z-Daemon, and Otimex, or let alone emulation through DOSBox for that matter. And I say that because each source port has their hits and misses when it comes to maintaining the vanilla experience. And Zandronum is just flooded with heavily modded servers. It just really isn't for me, honestly. Now, another nice feature that I stumbled across is community-made mod support. It's safe to say that when a game has modding support, it brings out tons of replayability, and Doom is no exception. Prior to this new re-release, only a certain amount of user content were brought in from time to time, endorsed by Bethesda or id Software, albeit slowly. But now, users have gained the ability to upload their own content, which, in my opinion, is a wet dream for many for those who are playing on game consoles. And we are not just limited to limit removing WADs like the previous, as there is support for Boom compatible and MBF21 compatible WADs. To be fair, modding was one of the reasons why I stuck to PC gaming. You can only play so much stock levels before you get really bored of playing the same thing over and over. Anyway, this idea is really great on paper, but it has its issues that really need to be addressed. On the first day of its launch, the menu was immediately flooded with a bunch of user content like Nuts.wad, Alien Vendetta, Ancient Aliens, and various other popular WADs out in the wild. What brings out one major flaw right away is that there are multiple versions of these popular add-ons. Like, at this point, we have about 5 if not more uploads of Nuts.wad for crying out loud. Various users and mod makers would also complain about their works being uploaded without their consent, which that in itself can be a double-edged sword. And that is because of scenarios like the original creators of such content no longer able to be reached for various amount of reasons. Here I've uploaded at least one of my own creations, but I also uploaded a 1995 episodic WAD called Earth, which I can recall playing through a few years back. I've made sure to at least credit the original author, but it's kinda hard to tell at first glance, because for one, it looks like as if I am the creator of these WADs like Earth and Dwango 5. I kinda feel like there should be a way to make it so that proper credit is given. Like, at least have it so when uploading a WAD, you can specify the original author instead of slapping it in the description. To make matters worse, or even worse, not only these add-ons are being uploaded without permission, even add-ons that don't work at all got past the verification process. You got mods like myhouse.wad, which was a GZ Doom exclusive, and even the original iWAD file for Hexen Beyond Heretic being uploaded. So think about this for a second. A GZ Doom mod that won't work at all, and a illegally shared commercial WAD file. Wow. And while people have complained about this, we were met with, oh, just file a report or something, which can be a massive chore, especially for a really popular game that's almost 31 years old. Honestly, I believe this is just a lazy way to deal with this issue, in my opinion. And honestly, I feel like there should be a more better way of handling how add-ons should be published. And another thing that really needs refinement is the mods menu itself. Because if you also think about this for a second, we almost have like thousands of submitted add-ons and you have no search functionality. This makes finding a certain add-on a pain in the ass, especially when you have unauthorized and barely tested content that may potentially crash the game. Issues aside, it is a nice feature to have not only for those playing on PC, but also on the big 3 game consoles as well. Though I recommend browsing these add-ons in your web browser for the time being until they patch the game to allow you to have a search function or something. The link will be in the description down below if you wish to browse these add-ons. Either way, what are my overall thoughts on this? Well, it's certainly a massive facelift from the Unity re-release that we had previously, and it has a ton of potential for being one of those definitive ways to playing Doom, especially when it's out of the box. I already completed all 4 episodes of Doom, Sigil, and even completed Doom 2 at the time of making this video, which I will cover later on in the future, so stay tuned for that. However, if you can't stomach the day 1 issues, I suggest waiting for an update that may address these issues. Otherwise, I suggest using a source port instead. My go-to source port that I recommend is Wolf, which is like PR Boom Plus, but it has that Chocolate Doom codebase feel to it. But that's also for a future video as well. Anyway, that's about it for this impressions video. What are your thoughts on this re-release, or remaster, or whatever you want to call it? I would like to hear about it in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching, and peace out everybody. See ya.